significant contributions to the gastronomic scene, earning him recognition as a master chef and a culinary artist. Throughout his career, Chef Nilesh has honed his skills working in prestigious restaurants, hotels and culinary institutions, gaining invaluable experience and expertise along the way. His culinary creations are not only a feast for the palate but also a reflection of his creativity, attention to detail and commitment to culinary excellence. Beyond his culinary prowess, he is also a mentor and an educator, sharing his knowledge and passion for food with aspiring chefs and culinary enthusiasts. His contributions to the culinary world have earned him admiration and accolades, establishing him as a respected figure in the industry. So can we have a huge round of applause as we welcome Chef Nilesh Limaye on the stage.
नमस्कार. सर्वप्रथम इथे उपस्थित सगळे मान्यवर, मिस्टर सोनी सर, रघु सर, उमेश कांबळे सर, त्यांना खरंच खूप शुभेच्छा. हार्टी वॉर्म विशेस टू हिम. इट्स ओके इफ I started a speech in Marathi?
Yes, absolutely.
Because we are in Mumbai, so थोडासा मुंबई पण असला पाहिजे नाही का. आणि तसे मला जरा अभिमान वाटतो जेव्हा आपण महाराष्ट्रात मुंबईत सस्टेनेबिलिटी बद्दल बोलतो, because we have already like all our esteemed speakers have already said that we have always been sustainable. Nobody needs to teach us. तसंच our special guest Chef Amrita Raichand, I have seen her shows from very long time, so nice to meet you today here. And my colleague Chef Rakhi Vaswani, who is also very much into this industry. So as a chef, I think we have always been in the forefront to explain about, first of all, we have brought in a lot of changes in the cuisine. Like Mr. Halde sir just asked us in the beginning that what changes have you seen after COVID? So I guess, the changes that as a chef we have brought across from so many years that we have been working. Who knew pasta here before? Correct? Who knew khawswe, what was it before? So chefs have always been game changers ever since food was always the center point. And post COVID, everybody has become a chef now. So it is one way it is very good that a lot of people have developed interest in food and in cooking. But from a very generic perspective, I feel that we as chefs bring in a lot of responsibility, because when we are cooking, we are not cooking only for ourselves, but we are also making the others eat our food. So that is one of the foremost responsibility that we have, because what we are going to cook, people are going to eat, and it's a question of their life, or it's question of course we cook for taste, nobody cooks for some wrongdoing, but as a chef we have to be very responsible. So when you think like that, we automatically think, yes, we have to maintain cleanliness, we have to follow the rules, we have to maintain the temperature, we have to cook the food correctly, and of course the taste always remains the core point of the restaurant or the food that we cook at home or in the restaurant. So that has always been very important. Regarding culinary sustainability, that is what I have been brought here, I've been invited to speak. Personally, I feel that there are three things that we need to take care of while we think of culinary sustainability. First of all, it's people. Of course, first of all, it's planet, people, and then profit. From a culinary perspective, from a restaurant or a commercial perspective. Correct me if I'm wrong, gentlemen and ladies and gentlemen, I hope it's correct.
Yes.
Because, because these three things go hand in hand. If we have to really refer to what culinary sustainability is all about, then it is all about practices that we put into while we cook food, or while we go on about maintaining our business, to ensure that there is no environmental impact on it. Environmental impact is the most important factor of any culinary sustainability, and along with that, most important thing is that how we preserve the natural resources, water, air, everything, that because there's so much of exhaust fumes that come out of a tandoor. But if you don't have the right exhaust system, it is only going to pollute the kitchen and the staff and eventually the environment outside. Correct? Because coal vapors are very hazardous. Along with that, how we reduce the carbon footprint? Do we every time need to go and buy caper, or do we every time need to go and buy truffle? Or is a sustainable ingredient available here? Believe me, some years back, quinoa was a very new term. People didn't know what quinoa was. But I thought that when I saw quinoa, because even I as a chef hadn't seen quinoa earlier in the beginning of my career. And when I actually saw quinoa, I realized something which is very similar to our ingredient, but we have totally forgotten about it, or we are so ignorant about it, or we just don't feel proud about it. Can you suggest me that name? Can you guess any name that resembles quinoa in a certain format? Sorry, a little close, but couscous also is not very Indianized. It's not a very amaranth. Yes. So Rajgira or amaranth is such a superfood. Yeah, but as a kid I have eaten Rajgira ka kheer, I have eaten Rajgira puris. But when quinoa came into picture, everybody was suddenly health conscious. And when moringa or drumsticks, which I used to remove it out of the dal or the sambar when I was a child, and then when Angelina Jolie started recommending it, everybody was after moringa, because it was all about how important that moringa is, and then suddenly it became very popular. So my point is that, do we really need carbon? How can we look at carbon footprint? That is the most important aspect. And then whether it promotes our health and supports our economy. These two are very important. Does it promote our health? Because as a chef, we are cooking something. Will it be good for my health? Okay, we all talk about junk food. Everybody thinks pizza, burgers are junk food. Everybody thinks, or it was a norm, that potato is a, no, you cannot eat potato. But personally, I always felt that potato is a humble vegetable. There's nothing wrong in potato. You need that starch, you need the carbs to run every day for your life. But when it is frozen, or when it is put into a very used up oil, that's the time when potato becomes junk. Or when you eat a frozen pizza, or when you eat something which has been taken out of the deep freeze after 3 months, then is it really good for health? Or something which that the person is just not clean enough. Himself is not clean. How do you expect his food to be clean? And I have seen really small restaurants or small outlets like street food vendors whose places are spick and span, and you can immediately tell the difference. There is no cosmetic hype around that place, unnecessary flowers and a lot of paraphernalia around it. But when the stall looks clean, his work counter looks clean, surroundings are clean, he's maintaining a proper dustbin, I know that this place you can be sure you can definitely eat from that place. So personally, I feel culinary sustainability starts from that. Am I right? Or am I right? Okay, thanks. You don't need to clap every time, but so in my early times of my career, I was very glad that environmental sensitivity came to me by luck. Fortunately, because I was part of one of the first eco-hotel in the country, which was the Orchid, and Mr. Kamath and Mr. Kannampalli, who brought in that concept of environmental sensitive hotels. I learned a lot, because after coming from a catering college and then working for 5 years, 6 years, logging in a very fine dine, very fancy hotel, and then coming to something like a project hotel which was very environmentally sensitive, that's the time when we realized that yes, and they thought about this, they had this vision way back in '97 when the Orchid came up, and based on that sustainability, I guess those 5 globes that we spoke about that time were very relevant. What were those 5 globes? The first globe was obviously the environmental sensitivity, because everything that is around you is very important. You have to take care of the nature, because we are here because of Mother Nature. We are here because of all the hills. We are here because of that honeybee. Correct me if I'm wrong. We are here because of the insects that are surviving, and it is such a great feeling when you actually go to the fields and when you see those lush green farms, when you actually harvest a wonderful green vegetable, and then that freshness really kills it. You don't need to put anything on top of that. Basic masalas and the vegetables can be really tasty. So environmental sensitivity, the farmers are so concerned if it doesn't rain. The farmers are so concerned if there is a little bit of economic calamity, climate calamity. So you can really understand how environment plays such an important role. We have in our so many years that a certain bird, if he's around June, that means we know that the rains are on their way, because that bird always will make noise just when the rains are about to come. So we understand that's how the signals were. We know nobody had a very high-tech weather department at those times, but they knew when to sow what and how important was that. So environmental sustainability was one of the globe. Then solid waste management. Solid waste management, where we segregate the garbage, that becomes the most important part. Dry and wet waste is what we know, but apart from that, plastic has to be segregated, the bottles has to be segregated. Very important thing, the used oil is a big hazard for our sustainability. Used oil is going down the drains. It eventually ends up in oceans, which are killing the crop paraphernalia in the sea. So these used oil, how you dispose of the used oil becomes the most relevant factor for culinary sustainability. You cannot throw it down the drain. You have to collect it, and there are institutes who collect it and recycle it for using it as a grease in automobiles or using it as soaps for your floors. So that's how the oil should be discarded or should be disposed of. It is very important. I have realized that most of the time we just empty out the used oil from the kadhai and we forget about it. Even putting it in the dustbin is not the right thing. So particularly when we are in the hotels, when we are consuming more than 5 tins of oil every day, you can imagine the amount of wastage. I remember I was on a ship. It's a small example. I remember I was on a ship, and there was one particular point where all the used oil had to be disposed of, and that was a pipe which went down to the machinery. Okay, by mistake, I must have dropped one pan of oil into the drain. It was a used oil, and within 3 days there was a notice to the ship. I kept my mouth shut. It was a long time back, so I can say it very relaxed today. But within 3 days, the environmental ministry from that country issued a notice to our cruise ship that we found oil deposits on the sea water. So within 3 days. So you can imagine that it may not have been even a liter of oil. By mistake, it went down the drain, and they got the news that somebody had discarded the oil into the sea. So you can imagine how hazardous it can be and how important it is how to dispose of the oil. Then we come across energy management. As a chef, energy, we use so much energy. It can be fuel, it can be coal, it can be electricity, and we are continuously using it. Kitchens are running 24/7. So energy maintenance is the most important part. And very simple example is that if your fridges have glass doors, like how the VC coolers are, you won't open the fridge 10 times, because you know whether what is kept where, and you will open it because you know in this fridge, because in the kitchen, in the restaurants, you know that there are so many fridges are all around you, and if they have glass doors, it really helps, because you know where your mise en place is kept, and you will not open the door to check whether it is kept in that fridge or not. So energy management in a very small way can be very important. Along with that, water management. Water is the most important thing for us to survive, to live, to cook. So which water you are using also becomes very relevant. So water management, I'll quickly run through. And then the staff commitment. The most important part is the staff commitment, because if you as a person cooking it, or in the kitchen, or as a part of the hospitality person, If you are not concerned about environment, if you are not concerned about what you are doing, if you don't like what you are doing, then people can make rules, and then rules can always be broken. So first of all, it has to come from within. That is the most important thing, that it has to come from within, that yes, when I talk about culinary sustainability, I really mean it. And if I can do it because I am taking care of the area, taking care of the nature, then only I can really feel proud about what I'm doing. So that becomes the crucial part. Of course, then along with commitment comes the community involvement. Just having a compost pit and using that compost, using the waste to put it in the compost pit, and then using that compost for the landscape around you can be a wonderful way of sustaining your environment. And all the waste that we generate, so much waste we generate, from bones to fish scales to vegetable peels to seeds, everything can be really disposed of very correctly. Even your old gravies, used up gravies, sometimes there is a hazard that even if we are giving our leftover food to some organization, to give it to some poultry farm or piggeries, we may harm them because we don't know at what temperature they will be serving. So it becomes a little relevant that how you dispose of your leftover food. First of all, as a chef, it becomes very crucial to understand how much food I have to cook. Only then you will be a real chef. Otherwise, people cook for 200, 5,000 people. Chefs don't really know how much to order, how much to store, and how much to cook. And then you can see lots of food, because when such a big functions are held, there's so much of food that people can eat only 250 grams, max to max 280 grams. Okay, so on the plate, you can eat chaat, you can eat one burrito, and then you're already full. So when you create such vast menus, and when these menus are served in large quantities, then the inventory becomes the most important factor to realize your culinary, to maintain the culinary habitat of your kitchen. Obviously, it also involves cost, because higher the inventory, it's a dead investment already. So, as a chef, I personally believe to rely on our most two important things, which I learned as a kid in our geography, was about kharif crops and rabi crops. Okay. Now the kharif crops and rabi crops are so important to use it on our menus when we talk about seasonal menus, which is also another part of culinary sustainability, because kharif has its, it is grown. You start sowing it in around June, July. The harvest is in September, August, September. We are talking about rice, we are talking about jawar, we can talk about pulses, most of the pulses. So you can use them in your menu accordingly. There's a whole lot of vegetables you will know which are grown in which month, or which are available in which month, which helps you plan your menus. And we have such wide variety of fruits and vegetables that we haven't even scratched the top. I believe as a fish lover, people mostly go for pomfret and surmai. Okay, the kingfish. Now a little bit to sea bass. But do you know there's so much more variety available that you can create you can use those fishes, seafood in your menu. I went to Uran fish market and I saw a barracuda here, and I was really stunned that this kind of fish is available here. And I immediately picked it. It was fresh, and I had it yesterday. So lovely, the taste itself, when it is fresh, you don't need to do anything. And the last and the most important part, I think, is about bringing all together. So, as a commitment, I guess it's a big word, culinary sustainability, but we have been practicing it as a professional, industry professional. All we can do is that we can also use our expertise at home to encourage, like Chef Raichan Amrita said, that are you teaching your kids? Are you teaching your kids how to segregate the waste? Are you teaching your kids or the future generation that why important it is? Junk food is not always bad, but it depends on what kind of junk food you eat. So, and do you eat every day? Our food habits, there was never this problem of, the dietary issues that we have today. There was never this problem. I remember my grandmother or my neighbor who was almost 90 years old and very strong, very agile, still going full of energy, and she would wake up in the morning, do all the household work, and yet never feel sleepy after that. And why we have to do that? Because our entire habits have changed. So we need to work on that. We need to really work on our lifestyle, because finally it is our choice. Correct? I hope you are not sleepy now. Time for coffee. Thank you so much for inviting me here, WBR and the Hospitality Business Conclave. It was wonderful to be present, and thank you for hearing me out. Thanks everyone.
Thank you so much, sir, on the lovely session. And can you please join us on the
Shweta, even you have been wonderful.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that. And sir, I would request you to please stay back on the stage, and I would request our chief guest, Chef Amrita. I would request you to please join us on the dais and present a memento to our today's speaker.